All right, this is Nutrition for the Tactical Athlete, Nutrition for Fat Loss. This is part 3 of phase 1. This is the final part to this phase before we start getting into the more exciting sport-specific stuff. All right, getting a little more advanced. Learning objectives. Understand the basics of metabolism. Understand the basics of fat loss. This is the final part here of going over the basics. All right, so we're trying to get you that general understanding of how things work, so you're not just jumping into, strict exercise science and getting a little over your head. So continued from the previous class, as discussed previously, poor nutrition is the leading factor in obesity rates. There are many factors involved in why someone has a poor diet, most of which revolve around ease of access to unhealthy items. So obviously if you go to the gas station, the shop at, the PX, despite being on a military base, it is not filled with anything conducive to being an athlete or healthy warfighter, or honestly meeting body composition standards. Everything there is candy, chocolate bars, chips, beer, whiskey, Subway, just as much carbohydrate dense stuff you can get, very low protein options. Even the protein cookies are like 600 calories for 9 grams of protein. Basically just carbon fat cookies, but they're marketed as protein cookies. So unfortunately, you have a lot more ease of access to this kind of junk food than you do, say, some healthy chicken breast or something, A lot of guys will often grab these kind of meals from the store during lunch or breakfast hours or dinner in some cases when things are just sucking at work and they don't have time to get back and get what they have at home, which admittedly, normally there's nothing good at home anyway. It's also probably just pizza, but trying to give you the benefit of a doubt here, and let's pretend that you make good choices when you're at home. Let's make that guess here. The obesity rates in the military skyrocketed during the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm sure you guys saw it. It got out of hand pretty quick. We stopped doing PT tests. We stopped having organized PT, and for whatever godforsaken reason, everyone decided that meant physical health no longer mattered. So they just stayed in their room, played Call of Duty, ordered DoorDash, Uber Eats, whatever the case, and survived strictly off of pizza, Chipotle, and McDonald's, and just played online and probably streamed a bunch of video games, which good on them. I'm sure that was a really riveting time for the two people that watched the gameplay. But now we're back. We're not in lockdown modes anymore. Physical fitness assessments are back up, and everybody's at 40% body fat. And when you ask them why, their answer is, well, there was a lockdown, Sergeant. It's not my fault. Which, again, absolutely riveting, because there's quite a few people that got more fit during the lockdown because they were finally no longer hindered by very counterproductive schedules within the military. But that's another story. It is imperative that proper nutritional protocols are followed regardless of activity levels. Just because you don't have a PFA coming up doesn't mean you have a free pass to live on DoorDash meals, all right? A successful warfighter has a discipline to control his mind and body. We're going to double tap some notes from the previous classes, all right, just to give you a quick refresher, and then we're going to go into the new stuff. A tactical athlete must be able to perform heavy compound movements with typically high number of repetitions while being able to run or ruck for a long distance under a potentially heavy load. To prevent burnout, a 3-to-1 ratio of carb to protein is typically used in endurance events. Endurance athletes should eat 8 to 10 grams of carbohydrates per kilogram of body weight per day. Per kilogram of body weight, not per pound, per kilogram. Check out the math on that. I'm not going to cover all this for you now because I personally don't remember the math, but look it up. I'm sure the answers are online, I promise. This will depend on the duration of their endurance event. For endurance training lasting 4 to 5 hours, endurance athletes should consume 10 grams per kilogram of body weight. Roughly every half hour of an event lasting longer than 3 hours, a minimum of 30 grams of carbs and 10 grams of protein should be consumed along with the electrolytes. MREs usually follow a similar guideline for this purpose. You guys all remember we discussed MREs fairly in depth in the last class, right? It is important to understand that the diet required for endurance events is not the diet you would utilize to build muscle, maintain muscle long term, or lose body fat. This type of diet is meant to ensure energy is sustained with minimal muscle breakdown during periods of extended effort. So, like I've said before, I've known plenty of privates in the barracks for whatever reason. They'll bring their MREs back from the field they didn't eat, and they will eat them while playing video games or look beaten off or doing whatever the hell they do. Do not do that. Do not let your soldiers do that. MREs are not healthy at all for any reason. They're good for survival, they're good for long patrols, they're good for keeping your body in the fight, but they are absolutely not what you need to be living off of. I don't know why you would want to live off of them anyway, but you know, if maybe you just love them and that's what you're craving, fine. Make your own burrito bowl or spaghetti. Do not eat MREs, all right? And again, excess equals obesity. Consuming excess calories, regardless of whether the athlete is operating in the field or in a garrison environment, will lead to excess fat mass being developed. If you eat 6 MREs per day in the field, you're likely going to get fat, okay? Mitigate using the local shop or PX for meal times, and instead have your meals pre-prepared for consumption in order to avoid accidentally overeating. Do not, say again, do not live off of DoorDash and Uber Eats as soon as you're off work. If you don't have any meal prep foods and you're too tired to cook, go to bed. Excess calories right before bed leads to obesity. I am telling you, if you are so tired that you cannot cook yourself some eggs or something productive, it does not take long to cook anything really. You don't have to bake some hellacious dish. Just toss some chicken in a pan and saute it, man. If you're just too exhausted to do that, you should be too exhausted to order DoorDash and wait 45 minutes for it to get to you, okay? So go ahead, drink some water, get in the shower, go to sleep. Be a man about it, all right? You don't need to order a large pizza because you don't feel like cooking 4 ounces of chicken breast that takes 10 minutes to make, okay? Just go to sleep, call it a day, start over tomorrow. Unused energy equals fat gain, all right? So, if you've completed a 50-mile run and you consume a large meat pizza, you'll likely not gain any body fat. That's because you're likely at a negative energy balance. So you're in a caloric deficit, right? Less calories consumed than you have burned. However, if you consume the same pizza on a non-training day or a light training day, you will not use all the energy you've consumed, resulting in a caloric surplus. That's going to lead to fat gain. So if you get up, maybe it's just a basic run day, you knock out your PT, a little 5-mile run, you have not burned enough calories to blast a pizza, okay? You've not burned enough calories to go to Taco Bell, to go to McDonald's. You have not. I assure you, you have not. You might sit down and think, oh yeah, well, I'm sure I burned a lot of calories. Yeah, maybe you did, but the odds they're low, okay? You have not burned enough calories to go get this fast food. If you eat the same number of calories you burn, you'll maintain your body composition. If you eat less than you burn, you'll lose weight. If you eat more than you burn, you'll gain weight. Pretty simple science. It's not very complex. Do the math, all right? If you're in a deficit, you're good. If you're not in a deficit, you're wrong. Again, we got the big 3 macronutrients, carbohydrates. What are carbs? The breads, pastas, oats, fruits, a lot of other stuff. Proteins. What's protein? Again, you should know the answer. You should know it's better than anything, all right? It's chicken, eggs, seafood, beef, just meat. It's in a lot of yogurts. You know, pretty simple stuff here. What's fats? Yes, the answer is probably you, but minus that, in consumable form, it is avocado, oils, olive oils, you know, that kind of thing. Fats is also in milk, cheese, a lot of nuts. Just pretty simple stuff. Fat does tend to be on salmon and other kind of fatty fish, but that's pretty good fat though. That's fish oil, and only people buy that in pill form. So you're fine if you're getting that. Don't worry about it. Now, what is metabolism? Well, the body runs on energy, calories, to live. Everything an athlete does, both consciously and unconsciously, burns calories, using his eyes, digesting food, digesting water, walking, moving an object, and of course, lifting weights, cardiovascular training, etc. Every human being has a BMR, a basal metabolic rate. This is at times also referred to as an RMR, the resting metabolic rate. You could hear it referred to as either or. They're both the same thing. If someone just says your metabolic rate or your metabolism, it's all the same thing. Don't worry with it. BMR dictates the number of calories the body burns in a 24-hour period. If an athlete were to somehow sleep for 24 hours straight, you've been sedated, maybe you're in a coma, who knows, but basically you're dead. You're not digesting food, you're not moving, you're not doing anything that will require any calories to be burned aside from what your body would naturally burn to just keep you alive so you don't die. That is your BMR. Whatever amount of calories it would take to just keep you existing, that's your BMR. Several things influence the BMR, such as your age, gender, height, weight, body composition, so the amount of body fat and the amount of muscle mass and general physical fitness. So, if you have a 40-year-old female that's at 50% body fat, their metabolism is going to be a lot different than a 20-year-old male that is at 12% body fat. Okay, so keep that in mind. And again, if you take a 20-year-old at 30% body fat at the same age, but he's at 10% body fat, the metabolism is going to be different. That's because of their body composition, okay? So keep that in mind. Whether you're 200 pounds or you're 170 is really irrelevant. It's what your body's made out of. If you're mostly muscle mass, you're going to have a higher metabolism. How does fat loss work? Well, to lose body fat, you have to be in a caloric deficit. A single pound of body fat is roughly 3,500 calories. So if your BMR is 2,000 calories and you've only consumed 1,500 calories within that 24-hour period, you're in a 500 calorie deficit, right? That means you now have 3,000 calories left to burn before you lose 1 pound of body fat. Now, if the athlete was to consume 1,500 calories and then conduct exercise and burn another 500 calories, they're in a 1,000 calorie deficit. That would mean that in approximately 3.5 days, they would lose 1 pound of body fat. And that's ideal, as the most body fat an individual can lose in a healthy time frame of 7 days is 2.5 pounds. Yes, you can lose 10 pounds, 20 pounds, a lot of weight in 7 days. That is not healthy, it is not sustainable, and the weight will likely come back. If you're doing it the healthy way, and you're not using any performance-enhancing substances, you're looking at about 2.5 pounds. Body mass and body fat decrease similarly in the caloric restriction, CR, and exercise group, with about 8 to 12% weight loss, and did not change in the control group, indicating the feasibility of performing a year-long caloric restriction and exercise intervention. As for my study, I have it cited below. Summary, though, is put less in the body than it needs. This will cause the body to pull from fat stores to make up what it did not get, thus putting it in a deficit. The deficit can be created either by limiting caloric intake or increased physical training. Both. All right. So pretty easy. Either you can just diet down, or you can just increase your physical training, or you can just do both. I would suggest doing both. That's the best way. But if for whatever reason you cannot work out, or you just do not want to work out, then just diet down. But odds are you're able to work out, or you wouldn't be here, right? How to lose fat? It's a pretty short answer here. Everything. Now for a more detailed answer, eat clean. We'll cover more nutrition a bit later, right? A bit more in depth. Perform both cardiovascular training and resistance or weight training daily. Stay active, stay hydrated, and do not be lazy. Everything has a purpose, and it all ties together. Proper diet is 70% of physical fitness as well as fat loss. The saying, you can't out-train a bad diet, is accurate. You cannot usually train enough in one day under normal circumstances to rectify poor nutrition. So if an athlete intakes 6,000 calories of garbage, they're most likely not going to train hard enough to burn 6,000 calories. Now, in some cases, yeah, it does happen. All right, don't go citing marathon runners on me like, oh, this Courtney Dauwalter lives off of burritos and pancakes and pizza, and she's super lean. Yeah, she also runs 300 miles at a time, dude. Okay, there's probably a difference there between you. You go to work for 12 hours a day and you go and play Battlefield. Okay, I can assure you there is some difference in activity level and calories burned. I get it. You think you burned 1,000 calories at the least because you did a couple squats, but bad news, you didn't. Don't compare yourself to professional athletes that are putting in 10 times more work than you have in your entire lifespan. It is not the same. When you look at your nutrition labels and you see your coffee creamer is about a 2 tablespoon serving size at around 60 calories and 10 grams of carbohydrates, and you have about 4 cups of coffee a day with about 8 tablespoons of creamer in each one, jot that down. Then go to the gym and you use a heart rate monitor to see how many calories you burn. See how long it takes you to compensate for just that coffee. That's a quick way to understand fat storage and fat loss. Understanding the amount of effort it takes to fix what you just did and realizing you have no interest in sitting in the gym for 3 hours to make up for some coffee that you didn't even really need. That applies to me too. I don't like black coffee too much. I also like coffee that's very sweet, sugary, very desserty. I don't know, say what you want about me. I don't care. That's how I like it. So, if I'm going to consume that, I also have to be aware of the fact that I'm consuming like 900 calories for nothing. And it's literally for no reason. So I generally mitigate that a lot. The same goes for a lot of people. They'll put some sugar in their coffee, some creamer, and that's not bad by itself, but then they'll have like 10 cups of coffee with sugar and creamer in it. And you've accidentally just popped in 1,200 calories out of nothing, and now you're going to eat whatever you're going to eat that day. You end up accidentally having 4,000 calories that day and every day, and you don't even notice it. So please be attentive to your calories. Look at your nutrition labels for your energy drinks, because I know you're all drinking energy drinks, right? Look at the labels for your fucking Hot Pockets that you're blasting on the weekends. Look at the labels for your coffee that you're getting out of the shops. Try to look up the information on the restaurants that you're eating, whether that be McDonald's, Subway, whatever. I can assure you a foot-long Subway sandwich is probably not very good nutritionally. There's never a time that eating an entire loaf of bread is going to be a good plan, but you're going to do what you're going to do anyway. At least understand the workload you're going to put in to fix it, all right? Training for fat loss. When it comes to training, there's a lot of different types. Some of them is aerobic training. That's generally best for fat loss, all right? And that is because that is cardiovascular training. It is sustained effort, and you're just burning calories. Now, understand this. Cardio itself does not burn fat. Nothing burns fat, okay? That's not a thing. You're not going to lift some weights and tone up. You're not going to go get on the treadmill and you're just going to cut fat. No, you're burning calories, okay? The more calories you burn, the more fat you burn. But if you're eating a shit ton of calories, you're not going to negate it. You're not going to negate that by doing cardio. You're not going to eliminate those bat wings you have for triceps because you did a couple curls for the girls and you did a couple overhead extensions, right? That's not how it works. So don't get into that attitude. It's just good for burning calories because it's really easy to maintain running or doing the stair stepper or the elliptical, the bike, whatever. It's easy to maintain that for a long time without just smoking the hell out of yourself. That's why it's really good for fat loss. You can burn a lot of calories with not a lot of effort. It is time consuming though. Be aware of that. Anaerobic. I did not spell that right in this slide, but anaerobic is best for endurance and stamina, as well as explosive power. For a quick comparison, aerobic training is slow and steady, such as lifting an easy weight or simply walking somewhere or a light jog. Anaerobic, however, is lifting weights aggressively with little rest and moving stations frequently, or performing sprint drills for long periods of time. This is similar to CrossFit, for example. Resistance training is also ideal for long-term fat loss and general health boost. Resistance exercise provides an alternative to aerobic exercise. It improves muscular strength, muscle mass, and metabolic control safely and effectively. in vulnerable populations independent of weight loss. Muscle mass burns more calories to exist. Thus, if you increase your muscle mass percentage, you will also increase your BMR. Performing resistance training also burns significant amounts of calories during training, as well as afterwards for a few hours due to the recovery process. Once you've recovered, new muscle mass is added, thus increasing BMR. Cardiovascular training does not accomplish this, but we'll talk more about that later. Long story short on that, the concept of, hey, you lift weights to get big and you run to get small. Look, man, lifting weights is the best all around. You get big, you look better, and you burn a lot of calories for a longer period of time, and it increases your overall metabolism. So think about it. You get a nice well-rounded chest and some jacked arms. It's easier to stay lean. It's a lot better than just running 10 miles a day and you just look like a noodle at best. Probably with a beer gut because you don't stop drinking energy drinks and beer and cheap shopette whiskey on the weekends. But again, you're going to do what you're going to do. Let's avoid some trends, okay? You need to avoid falling into the trap of fad diets or crash diets. There's a lot of these diets that are pretty popular these days, such as keto, paleo, carnivore, all kinds of craziness. I've seen some things called the military diet, which is ironically nothing to do with the military, but it's like a banana and a little bit of peanut butter on bread or something. It's like 500 calories a day. It's disgusting. Don't get into that stuff. These diets are not optimal for long-term physical performance as a tactical athlete or a war fighter. You should eat for performance. If you eat for performance, your body composition changes will occur. If you eat too little, you'll severely hinder your ability to recover. Your daily energy levels can crash, as well as your metabolism. If you understand BMR, performance eating is dependent on what your activity levels are and what your training consists of. If you mostly focus on strength training, you'll need more protein. If you focus on cardiovascular training, you'll need more carbohydrates. Okay? Again, pretty simple stuff. You lifting big boy weights, you need some big boy protein, all right? You're running some good speeds, some good distance, you need some carbs. Make sure your body doesn't crash, you don't bonk or hit the wall, as they say. So in conclusion, your basal metabolic rate or resting metabolic rate, BMR and RMR respectively, is your metabolism. This dictates the number of calories you need to survive. Over-consuming energy, calories, will result in body fat increase. You should monitor nutrition labels. It's possible you're accidentally consuming excess calories in energy drinks, coffee creamer, and so on. Stay in a caloric deficit to lose body fat. This can be achieved through caloric restriction, CR, physical exercise, or both. So, last thing I'm going to hit on here is just be smart, all right? Watch what you're doing. You know the right answer. You've been knowing the right answer. You don't need me to tell you the right answer. I mean, you kind of do because you don't want to do the right answer, but that's okay. Do the right thing. All right, you have enough common sense to know that a pizza is probably not the good option when compared to salmon fillet. All right, I get it. We all like the Chipotle burritos. We love some Buffalo Wild Wings. Why not? I like some whiskey too. All right, but you got to make the right decision or you're going to screw up your progress, and you'll do it quick, okay? And that's how we end up where we are, where you have half the formation is obese. So let's work on getting that fixed, all right? Now next we're going to be digging into the more advanced stuff, getting more specific. I just want to use these 3 classes to kind of lay out the groundwork, give you a good baseline understanding, and then we can start grinding it out from there, really getting into this. We can start hopefully honing in more specific changes to your lifestyle. But for now, use what you got, and you should start seeing progress pretty quick, all right? It should not take long at all. At the least, you should start feeling better. But that's it for now, boys. We'll get back after it again soon. Be seeing you.